With there only being one episode left of Stranger Things before it ends forever, I think it's safe to say that a lot of us are a little bit more worried about how the show could end following what was shown to us in Season 5 Volume 2. It didn't quite live up to the first volume, and with the equivalent of a feature film to go, there's now a lot to wrap up. With only a few days to go until the final episode airs, I wanted to share what I think could happen in the final episode and how I think the show will ultimately end. So let's get into it. Here is Stranger Things Season 5 Volume 3 Theories Explained. Just to let you know, this video will contain spoilers on every episode from Season 5. The Mind Flayer will be revealed. One of the biggest things that I think we'll see happening in the final episode of Stranger Things, and something that I think needs to happen, is the return of the Mind Flayer. The Mind Flayer is the oldest villain in the universe, and whilst it seems like Vecna is the one that's in charge, I think the final episode is going to quite literally flip everything on its head. Based on the stage play The First Shadow, Henry Creel got his powers when he went into the Abyss and was introduced to the Mind Flayer. The Flayer essentially put the darkness inside of Henry, and when he returned to his dimension after 12 hours, he was a changed person. I think the group will be successful in killing Vecna within Operation Beanstalk, and we saw a weakened Vecna in the most recent volume with the way that Will was able to tap into his mind and also cause his foot to be broken, so he's not quite as strong as what he was in Season 4. I think with Operation Beanstalk being something that's gonna get a focus, once the group enter the Abyss, we'll see Vecna be killed, and even though they'll think that they've completed their mission, that's when the Mind Flayer will reveal itself. They've never been to the Abyss before, only the Upside Down, which we now know is a wormhole, and whilst they're there, they'll be in the Mind Flayer's playground. This will connect the show all the way back to the first season, and we'll see the home of the dark entity that essentially created it all. Vecna has this mission of wanting to merge the worlds and plague Hawkins with darkness, but with the darkness being something that was actually placed within him. I feel like it could well be the Mind Flayer that's in control and the creature's true plan. This will then mean that the group will need to find a way to defeat the Mind Flayer, and it's where I think Eleven, Carly, and Will's powers will come into effect, and we could see a major death happening. Will saw the Flayer all of those years ago, so is tapping into the creature's darkness something that he has the ability of doing, or are we going to see Eleven utilizing her powers in a way like we've never seen before? I think both of those options could be the case. They're in the world where darkness originates from, so whatever they do, they're most likely gonna need to be pushed to their limits. Carly will betray Eleven. Ever since Carly returned in part 1 of the volume, I did wonder what her importance would be, and now we're seeing that her purpose is to cause some drama and to get Eleven to quite literally sacrifice herself for the greater good of the world. Carly believes that even if the Upside Down gets destroyed or if Dr. K gets killed, there'll always be somebody that wants to continue Dr. Brenner's plan. So Carly believes the only way to stop the scientists' appetite for the project is to make sure that there are no numbers available with Henry's blood within them for the scientists to go after. This in turn would mean that there'd be no more villains that would be able to be created, and Eleven's friends would be safe because the scientists would stop going after her. Personally, whilst Carly also said that she'd throw herself into the mix and stay behind whilst the Upside Down was being destroyed along with Eleven, I don't think that's the case. I think Carly doesn't have those intentions at all. Carly was essentially captured and tested on because the scientists ultimately wanted Eleven, and Carly was the next best thing. With Eleven never speaking with Carly after leaving her all of those years ago, and Carly having all of those people that she cared about killed and then being trapped and not rescued, she might hold some kind of resentment towards Eleven for that. I think this could be Carly's way of wanting to get her own back at Eleven and to make her feel an ounce of the pain that she experienced whilst she was being tested on. I think this could then tie into the wider plot point of Hopper wanting to be the father figure to Eleven that he is, and that could then see him being the person that would ultimately sacrifice himself or try to fight Carly, and maybe she ends up killing him or wounding him, which would then cause Eleven to kill her sister. Carly isn't the most likable of characters, and I think she's been written that way on purpose, because I think she's going to cause some upset amongst the group, and that upset could be Hopper's death. He's not been in it as much as usual, and I think that could be because the writers are planning on his character meeting its end. Carly's betrayal of Eleven is something that I think would add a good amount of jeopardy into the mix, so I hope we see something like that. We'll see the flashback in the cave. Now, I thought we were going to get this in Volume 2 of Season 5, but we didn't, and I was really disappointed about it. We got glimpses of Henry in the cave, but I think we'll see the flashback we've all been waiting for in the final episode. The last thing we saw was Henry opening up the case that the scientist had with him, which was a piece of technology that had the ability to send somebody to Dimension X, and within the finale, I think we'll see exactly that happening. This is where the Mind Flayer gave Henry the darkness within him, and why the events that we saw in Season 4 with Henry killing his family and channeling the darkness began. I also think we'll see the 1959 timeline and the memory that Henry had where Patty's name appeared on a poster for a play that they were doing at school. Henry had a strong connection with Patty, but ultimately went on to harm her to the point where he thought that she was dead, and this was because the Mind Flayer essentially channeled the darkness within Henry and got him to do that. This will enable us to see a Henry Creel and a Vecna before the darkness and the immediate aftermath of the Mind Flayer doing all that it could to shape his mind. I think this would be quite a cool thing to see because it would show us how Henry Creel was almost just like Will and that he's what Will could have essentially become if the darkness was just left inside of him and he was being played with by the Flayer and Vecna after all of this time. I think it'll also show us that the Henry Creel with humanity was basically still inside of this vessel that had become Vecna and that the control of the Flayer was what ultimately caused him to do all of those terrible things. We still don't truly know the origin of Henry's powers outside of the first Shadow stage play, so I'm hoping the events of the play are going to be touched on in the final episode. However, I am fearful that they're not going to do that, because if they do, it might give people less of a purpose to go and watch the play. Which characters will die? Well, I think it's safe to say that neither Jonathan nor Nancy are going to die now. I thought that might have been the case when the trailers were dropping, but their arcs was just leading to a breakup. However, I do still think we'll see a few characters dying in this final episode. I don't think it'll be a complete bloodbath, but I think we could see Carly most likely being killed by 11, Hopper potentially dying at the hands of Carly, or at least being injured, which will drive 11 to kill Carly. I also think we'll see Vecna being killed, and we'll most likely see the Mind Flayer being destroyed as well. I can't see a world where any of the main characters in the group get killed off. They've had many opportunities to do so over the years, and they've never been brave enough to do it, so I can't see it happening in the final episode now. I reckon it'll just be the characters that are perceived to be evil, not good guys, and if it is, it'll just be a side character like Murray. For now, these are some of the main events that I think we'll see happening in the final episode of Stranger Things. I'm not outright predicting the ending, but these are the main events that I think we could see occur, which could ultimately connect to the ending of the show. I do believe that the Upside Down will be destroyed and the Abyss will be cut off from Hawkins completely. I just can't see a world where the show doesn't have a happy ending and the darkness wins. However, I do think there'll be elements of darkness within it, and that will come in the form of certain characters dying. As you can probably tell, I'm set on the Mind Flayer returning. It's something that I want to happen, and I feel it needs to really make the show feel connected to Season 1 and go out with a bang. It's an entity that's just petrifying because of the lack of knowledge about it, and with the finale approaching and the group quite literally going to the home of the Mind Flayer, I just don't see a world where it doesn't appear. With only a couple of days to go, let's just hope that the final episode is better than everything that we got in Volume 2, and it goes back to the level of Episode 4 of Season 5, or the entirety of Season 4. So, there you have it, Stranger Things Season 5 Volume 3 Theories Explained. If you want to see more videos on Stranger Things Season 5, then check the playlist below, and don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss future videos. How do you think the show will end? Share your thoughts in the comments. As always, thanks for tuning into the video, and I'll see you in the next one.